With the Brooklyn Nets finally finishing up their NBA Summer League, I think it's time for us to talk about some key takeaways I have noticed that I think are important to talk about. And the first thing I want to talk about, and the thing I am most excited and happy for, is Yegor Duomin's sharpshooting. I said in earlier content that I posted out way before Summer League that I was a firm believer that Yegor Duomin's jump shot was going to fall sometime this year, or that he was going to develop into a great jump shooter. A lot of people were very low on this draft pick because he didn't look like he was going to be able to shoot from three. He was shooting with 29% accuracy during his year in college, which isn't great. However, when you actually looked at the clips and highlights of him, you saw that he had the potential to be a really good shooter. I'm pretty sure that's what Sean Marks was looking at. I feel really good about seeing this because, again, I was a firm believer. I was calling it when a lot of people weren't. Now you're seeing a lot of these bigger journalists come out and saying, wow, Duomin is turning up and turning into this crazy shooter. And I think I really need to express just how crazy this is. This guy went from 29% from three on 5 attempts per game in college to about 43.5% on about 8 attempts a game. In the 3 games he played in the Summer League, he's put up about 40% in the first 2 and 50% in the 3rd game he's played. Again, pretty low scoring night since he was only taking jump shots, but the main point of interest was the type of shots he was taking. Everything from catch and shoots to off the dribbles to open shots contested. And again, it's Summer League. As a Brooklyn Nets fan, I think back to when Jalen Wilson was averaging 55% from 3 during his Summer League debuts. So, yeah, this is a very short sample size and it doesn't tell the full picture. Because Jalen Wilson is not someone I would call a jump shooter. But I don't know, I'm really looking forward to see how this guy develops. I also was someone who was very open in talking about how Duomin was going to be this positionless, point forward type player for the Brooklyn Nets, and it's looking exactly like what Sean Marks and Jordi Fernandez really wants out of this guy. And look, maybe during a NBA redraft of the 2025 draft class, Duomin might not even go in the top 10. However, I do believe firmly that he's going to be one of the better picks in this entire draft. Alright, next takeaway, I want to talk more positives, Nolan Traore. Now, I don't have the exact numbers on screen for me. I do think Traore had a bit of a rougher time during his 2nd and 3rd game. However, that first game and a lot of what you saw throughout the Summer League looked very promising. You know, he seems very comfortable cutting to the basket, driving to the basket, scoring, playmaking. He does feel a bit hesitant in his shot, but I feel pretty confident that he can shoot anywhere from 3 to 5 attempts a game from 3 and knock down maybe 1 or 2 of them, which is all you really need from the guy. I kind of trailed off there, but I do think that he is going to try to be more of a score-first option for the Brooklyn Nets, which has its pros and cons for what they're trying to be building. But I do think, and like I said, well before the Summer League and just after the draft, I do feel really confident that Traore is going to have the best floor out of the 5 guys Brooklyn has drafted. I don't think he's going to be the best player. I'm still giving Duomin the benefit of the doubt, especially with how he's spacing, especially if he can hit the weight room and keep up his 3-point productivity, but we'll see. Now, I do want to talk about some negatives. I don't think that this first point is an all-time negative. It's more of a hit or miss kind of conversation that you need to have about this player, and that's Danny Wolf. Again, I really liked what I saw from Wolf during his Summer League, especially that Game 3 that he played, or rather, it was Game 4 of the Summer League, his 3rd game he played, where he put up 14 points, he shot 50% from 3 on 2 attempts, and I believe he had about 3 to 4 assists. Now, one thing I've always been somewhat critical about was that he also had 3 to 4 turnovers. And as you saw from the first 2 games he's played, yeah, it's going to be a bit of a rough time for Wolf to figure things out. I still think it's great value as the 27th pick of the draft, especially with his upside. But I do feel like that this is a very big boom or bust player. And it's more about how willing he is to kind of adjust his game. He does play really fast tempo, which is what the Brooklyn Nets want. However, I do think for Wolf to become a better playmaker, he's really going to have to slow down his pace. I can't even really call him baby Jokic because he has a more aggressive style of play than Jokic does when it comes to passing and playmaking. Jokic kind of playmakes within that kind of center role where Wolf is more of a playmaking point forward who likes to pick and roll and drive to the basket for his creation. Either way, I do think that this is a bit more of a negative takeaway just because, again, it's a boomer bust kind of project player. However, this is the ideal team or the ideal season for such a player to kind of figure things out. And I do think down the line, Wolf is going to figure these issues out. I wouldn't be surprised if by March time, we're seeing Wolf put up about 4 to 5 assists on, let's say, 3 turnovers, and he's putting up a consistent 12 to 14 points a game. Now, moving on, this is probably the most negative take I'm going to have in this video, and that's dealing with Ben Surratt. And when I was looking at the Nets draft, I wasn't very keen on Surratt. He was the third point guard that Brooklyn drafted. Granted, he's more of a combo guard, and since Brooklyn is going for positionless basketball, it makes sense why they were going for him. You know, he's a decent playmaker in the draft. He's, like I said, a combo guard, so he can play the 1 or the 2. So you can have rotations like Traore at the 1, Seraph at the 2, Dwellman at the 3 or 4, Powell at the 3 or 4, and then Wolf at the 4 or 5. That being said, I was not too keen on the kind of playmaking and the kind of game Seraph was playing. Seraph, in every single game he's played, was driving to the basket like 24/7, really poor efficiency, tons of silly turnovers because he was just trying to push the ball too fast, and he wasn't really playmaking for his teammates. There was one possession, I think in the second game, where he had a really nice kick out to Dwellman for an open 3 in the corner. Granted, I do think he does have a really good game when it comes to driving to the basket, albeit he is very inconsistent. But I do think that can be just first year jitters. You know, especially since it does kind of seem on paper that he is the third string point guard, the third string playmaker. Especially with the idea that Wolf might be taking more playmaking kind of possessions than him. He might be kind of feeling a bit like the black sheep in the group. Feeling like he kind of has to fight and prove for his place. That being said, my main concern is the fact that he really lacks a jump shot. Like, there was close mid-range shots that he was just absolutely missing. And that just did not feel right. That didn't look good. I wasn't feeling that great about it. And again, this isn't me talking like he's going to be a bust. Again, he's the 26th pick of the draft. He still has plenty of years for him to figure things out. I think he's going to be fine. However, I do think of the Nets' 4 rookies that played, because Powell was injured, Seraph had the roughest time out there. And lastly, I do want to end this video on a positive, and that positive is Drew Timme. Mr. 5000 himself had a phenomenal summer league. He played 3 of the 5 games, and I think he averaged like 24 points. I'm not really looking at the stats right now. I'm just kind of talking off the dome for most of these. And yeah, he looked great out there. He looked like a great play finisher. Again, this is Summer League, so he is kind of just being a man amongst mice at the moment. Granted, he didn't play a lot last season. He was kind of an acquisition at the tail end of that season for the Brooklyn Nets. So, you know, you're not necessarily sure what you have with him, but I think the Summer League really showcased just how good this guy can be. Again, I don't think he's dropping 24 points in Brooklyn's regular season for the 2025-2026 season. Mainly because, you know, Claxton and Sharp are going to have their minutes over him. But I think he's a great rebounder. I think he's a good defender. He is eager to take 3-point shots. Not good, but he is willing to space if it's needed. My main concern with him is that I don't think Timme is really the type of pace and space player that Sean Marks and the Brooklyn Nets want for this more fluid and free-flowing offense that they want to create. There was like a few plays where I noticed that Timmy, instead of trying to pass to an open player, he instead would kind of take a contested shot, which does work out more in his favor than it doesn't. But there was one play in the first game or the second game, I can't remember, where Timmy was kind of at the top, not at the top of the key, but Timmy was kind of by the free throw line, being contested defensively by the opposing side, and Dwoman was right behind him, ready to take an open three at the top of the key. Like, no one was guarding him, no one was there, and Timmy decided to kind of just force his way into a push shot. Did it work out? I'm pretty sure it did. But at the same time, you don't want just a good shot. You want the best shot. And an open three from a guy who is showing that he can knock those down feels better on the box score than you taking a contested two. That's just kind of my feelings. That's kind of the philosophy I think Sean Marks and Jordi Fernandez is going to believe in. But, but that's not to detract from the great showcasing Drew Timme kind of showed off. So yeah, these were my takeaways from the Brooklyn Nets 2025 Summer League. I think the main conclusory point I would make is that I don't think that this year is going to be much of a winning year for the Brooklyn Nets. But from what I've seen, I do think that the Nets have a clear idea of how they want to develop these guys, and the Nets are aware of the weaknesses that they have to work on. I am very much looking forward to the start of the season, and let me know what you guys think in the comment section down below. This is Above the Net. Please subscribe if you've kind of stuck through and you want to see more in the future, and I hope to see you all real soon.